Well, welcome into your practice. This is going to be about a 45-minute Vinyasa practice that has a lot of different options in it. So if you find that you want to kind of like pick things up, you can take an option that kind of intensifies things, or always can take a step back as well. I'm calling this practice Learning to Ride the Wind. And it's inspired by a documentary that I've been watching on the world's national parks. And there was a particular segment, it was on the Patagonian forest, and it was looking at the condors, the Andean condors, which are one of the largest birds in the world. And these two parents were teaching their young to fly for the first time. And what was really notable to me is that the main point of that initial flying lesson for the children was to learn to ride the wind, because due to their weight and the expansiveness of their wingspan, in order to be able to scavenge and fly far enough to get enough nutrition, they have to be able to fly really long distances. And you simply can't do that if you're using all of your energy to constantly flap. So they had to teach the young how to find those air currents where they could just kind of like coast and let the wind do a lot of the work for them. And so when I think about the yoga practice, I think about there are obviously times in my practice where I'm flapping, like I'm working actively, I'm really trying to achieve something. There's real effort involved. And yet if I only do that and I don't learn to ride the wind, I'm just going to burn myself out. I'm either going to stop practicing, I'm not going to keep coming back to my mat, or I'm going to get myself injured. So it's really critical for us to learn to find those spaces in the practice where we pull back and we just ride the wind sometimes. So let's start in a comfortable seat like you find me here. We're here for a few minutes, so I'm elevated up on a block if that's more comfortable. And we'll start by bringing the arms out and up into field goal post positions. As you inhale, let the forearms come back, the heart lifts. It's almost like a cow position. Exhale, forearms come forward and down and round the spine slightly, almost like a cow. And just keep going up and down here. So this is a sort of inspired by a cat and cow, but we're getting a full shoulder rotation here as well. We'll be using these different shapes with the arm, and we have a little bit of a shoulder focus in the practice today. Take one or two more rounds of these. And the next time you find yourself in that field goal post, take your right arm across the body, left arm underneath, hug it in. And then really soften that right shoulder away from the right earlobe. So we want really spacious on the right side of the neck. And then turn and look over your right shoulder. Take a full breath in here. I'm really feeling this in my tricep. You may be feeling it along the scapula or the rhomboids. And then sweep the right arm right up to the ceiling. Left fingertips are on that right elbow. Bend the elbow and just let the fingertips land. It might be on the neck or the upper back. And then right away I notice that there's this separation that happens in the front of the ribs. So I'm just going to gently invite them in and down. Take one more breath in here. We are going to come into Gomukhasana arms. So right arm stays as it is. Left arm comes out, internally rotates to sweep down and walks up the back. Now, a few options. I'm just turning around so you can see this. If your hands stop quite far apart, you could just make fists and push the fists into the back. Just make this really active. You could also hold onto your clothing or a towel for some traction. Or if you find that the fingertips kind of are naturally close to each other, you can come into a bind. But that's not necessarily the objective. You don't have to have the bind. One more inhale there. And then exhale, go ahead and release, and it might feel really good to just take a few shoulder rolls. And then we'll take those kind of inspired cat and cows with the field goal post, just about 3 to 4, inhaling and exhaling. And inhaling and exhaling. True Vinyasa, just linking movement to breath here. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sun salutation. Next time those forearms are up, take your left arm across, right arm underneath, hug it in. And then really intentionally drop that left shoulder down and away from the left earlobe, and then turn and look over the left shoulder. And then we're going to sweep that left arm straight up towards the ceiling, right fingertips to the elbow, and just let the fingertips fall where they fall. And then again, checking in with this rib space where we might kind of corset it in and down slightly. Yes, good. And I'd really invite you, anytime that you find the body speaking to you in the language of sensation in the practice, take the right arm out, internally rotate, finding your Gomukhasana arms, remembering your options here. It's not necessarily the objective to find the full bind. But anytime in the practice you find the body communicating in the language of sensation, just know that the part of your body that's talking to you must have been working really hard for you if it has that sensation to communicate. So maybe seeing sensation in today's practice as an opportunity to say thank you to a part of the body that's worked really diligently for you. Start to release that, maybe rolling the shoulders a couple of times. We're going to make our way onto all fours. One more thing in our warm-up here. So have your blocks at the front of your mat. You notice mine are on the medium height, fingertips right behind. One more thing in our warm-up. From our tabletop position, we're going to keep our elbows straight. We're just going to make some scapula circles here. So I'm going to think of lifting my shoulders up to my ears, then up towards the ceiling, down towards my pelvis, and then down towards the floor. So I'm not bending my elbows. I'm just rolling my shoulders in the socket, making these big circles. And just know this is a little bit of a mind game. This is actually kind of like patting your belly and rubbing your head. And now reverse. So seeing if you can reverse the direction of the shoulders. And just notice, we do shoulder rolls sitting upright all the time. Notice how different it is for the brain to process this in this horizontal orientation. Come into a neutral position. So the scapula are just kind of settled onto the back. They're neither protracted or retracted. They're just right in that neutral position. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, find your first downward facing dog. Let this be filled with movement. This is a getting to know you practice, getting to know your pose here. And really thinking downward facing dog in particular is a pose where we can really ride the wind in the practice. It's often a place we can really check back in with the breath. We can reconnect with a sense of balancing effort and ease. Really a good home base to kind of check in if we need to pull back in any way. We'll start to move into some half salutations. So looking to the front of the mat, take some big steps forward towards the back of the wrists. Inhale, lift up halfway. Bring your fingertips up to the blocks here and fold in. Now, as we come to our first mountain pose, bring a block with you as you sweep the arms wide, coming all the way up. Take the block in between the hands. I'm just facing you so you can see this. So I'm standing up, but my hands are like this. Lean to your right, crescent moon. Maybe turn your gaze up towards the ceiling. And then pass through center, lean to your left, maybe turning the gaze underneath that right arm. Inhale to center, trying to keep the inner elbows facing each other, bend the elbows, dropping that block near the occipital ridge where the skull and the neck meet. Lean back, maybe let your skull kind of rest on the block as you find a slight back bend here. Big inhale. Exhale, come out of the back bend, reach the block up, folding forward, Uttanasana. Take a half lift here, inhale, fingertips on those blocks, long spine. Exhale, fold in. Do that one more time, same thing, bring a block with you, rise up to mountain pose. Block in between the palms of the hands, lean to your right. Inhale there. Exhale, pass through center, lean to your left. Big breath in. Exhale to center, finding our back bend, bending the elbows. Now there's a tendency for the elbows to go wide. Try to keep the inner elbows together. That block right on the occipital ridge. Lean back, find your back bend, big breath. And then coming up and out, folding forward, Uttanasana. We'll add on here, inhale, lift up, half lift. Hands behind the blocks, step back to plank pose. Inhale, the weight shifts slightly forward, and the blocks become a landing spot for us to lower down chaturanga, kiss the blocks with the shoulders, roll over the toes, upward facing dog, downward facing dog for 3. For 2. 1 more inhale. As you exhale, looking to the front of the mat, walking, stepping, or hopping the feet. Fingertips to those blocks. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold in. Listen carefully here. You're going to come back up into a half lift, and you're going to imagine your arms like a big, broad wingspan of a condor as you take your arms wide. Tabletop spine. Interesting thing about wings on a bird is the wings actually originate on the back. So feeling your entire back body support the width of your wingspan here. Take 1 more inhale. Exhale, fold in Uttanasana. We're going to rise all the way up, mountain pose. Hands into heart center. We're going to take that twice more, just a little bit faster. Inhale, arms sweep out and up. Surya Namaskaram A. Exhale, folding over the legs. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, stepping or floating it back to your plank. Those blocks are the places where you shift forward, you come down, the shoulders just kiss the blocks, and then lifting upward facing dog. Downward facing dog, 3 breaths, riding the wind. Knowing that we are not beings made of eternal energy. We have to really be skillful with how we manage our energy, our internal resources. And that means that we have to find places to just cruise. Look to the front of the mat, walk, step, or hop the feet. Inhale, lift up halfway. Maintain that tabletop spine. Find your wingspan. Sweep the arms wide. Feel the posterior chain engage. Exhale, drop in Uttanasana. Rising all the way up, mountain pose, Tadasana. Hands into heart center. 1 more Surya Namaskaram A. Inhale out and up. Nothing different. Let the repetition soothe you. Fold forward. Inhale, half lift. Step or hop it back. There's a slight shift of the body weight forward, lowering chaturanga. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Adho Mukha Svanasana for 3. Riding the breath. The breath being the wind in the body. Gliding. Not too much effort. We're going to move into our sequence starting from right here. We're going to come into Anjaneyasana. Lift the head, look forward, step your left foot forward. Let your right knee come down. Right hand could come on a block if that feels supportive, or it could just be on the floor. Sweep that left arm forward, up, back, and around, turning the head to look towards that left hand. Option to stay here or lift that back shin, capturing the top of the right foot. If that's enough, without lifting your pelvis, bend your left elbow and gently hug your right heel towards your right glute. 1 more breath. Exhale, gently release, crescent lunge, tuck the right toes, lift the right knee, sweeping the arms forward and up, rising into your lunge. Take your right hand to hold your left wrist. Inhale, get long through the left side body. Exhale, lean to the right. So anchoring in the legs so that we can be bold in our movement laterally to the right. 1 more big in-breath here. Now watch this. This is going to curve around like a big circle. So I'm going to curve my body around in a half circle. Bring my right forearm to my right thigh. I'm in goddess legs, left arm overhead. So my legs look like goddess pose, and I have a lateral bend in my upper body. Yes, pelvis is heavy. Take 1 more in-breath here. Without lifting the pelvis, you're going to come to goddess pose with the torso. So lift the torso, find those field goal post arms we had in our warm-up. Inhale, let the forearms come back a little bit. Feel the back engage. Keep that hinge forward tabletop spine. Now the tendency is for the arms to droop towards the floor. Think of the back of the forearms lifting towards the ceiling. One more inhale. You're going to come to side angle facing the front of your mat. Left forearm to thigh. Straighten the right leg. Sweep the right arm overhead. Side angle at the front of your mat. Good. We're going to get a nice wrist and inner arm stretch here. Lift your right arm to the ceiling. And then let your right fingertips pull back so the palm of your right hand is facing the ceiling. Super glue your fingers together. And then let your right arm glide back several inches until you feel a pull all along that inner seam of the right arm. Half moon pose, looking down, left fingertips to block or to floor. Shift forward, find flight. We'll be going through this sequence twice in today's practice. So if you would like, you have a little bit more time this first round to turn the gaze up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to engage our wingspan. Look down at the mat. We're going to come into warrior 3 with our arms in our wingspan. So you start to lift the left fingertips up and out, pivoting the right shoulder and the right hip down towards the floor. Feel yourself flying. Big inhale, pistol toe squat. Hands come to blocks. Tuck your right knee towards your belly button. Try not to let the right foot touch the mat as you scoop forward and find your pistol toe squat. Now you could keep your hands on the block the whole time, squeeze those inner thighs together, or you could work to try and have a look mom, no hands moment. And then good news, if you fall back, that's where we're going anyways. Roll back and right leg stays straight, left knee in, bring your right arm overhead. It's like swimming on your back. Switch, right knee in, left arm overhead, and switch, and switch. We've got 8, and switch, and 7, and switch, and 6. This would make a fun timestamp. 5, and 4, and 3. You're gonna rock and roll and come up to crow pose. Bring your knees into your belly, rock and roll along your spine, get some momentum, and then come forward, plant your palms, and find your crow pose. Knees on the backs of the arms, looking forward, finding flight. 3, 2, either shooting back or stepping back to chaturanga, up dog. Down dog. We'll take 5 breaths here. This is a great opportunity for a child's pose. This is definitely one of those times in the practice where we're looking to ride the wind. We just flapped our metaphorical wings quite a bit. We used a lot of our energy. So now we pause, we glide. We'll start the second side of the sequence, so if you're not in down dog, begin to rejoin us there. Give yourself one more inhale. As you exhale, the right foot's going to come forward. Left knee comes down, sweeping that right arm forward, up and back, finding a revolved low lunge. Option to stay right here or lift that back shin, capturing the top of the foot. I cycled yesterday. My quadricep is talking to me. Again, using sensation as an invitation for gratitude. That means your body did good work for you. And then gently releasing, crescent lunge. Tuck the left toes, lift the left knee, sweeping the arms forward and up. And then taking And finding right wrist into left hand, leaning. Yes, good. Really bold with that lateral lean. And then we sweep the body kind of through a big circle. Legs come into goddess pose, left forearm to left thigh at the back of the mat, right arm overhead. Pelvis is heavy, like it's being pulled down by an anchor. Inhale there. Exhale, lift the torso up, goddess position, arms feel goalpost. Feel the forearms push back, engage the upper back, and then hinge the torso forward, parallel to the floor. Let the inner knees open out wide, stretching the inner thighs. Side angle at the front of the mat, right forearm to right thigh, straighten left leg, sweep that left arm over. Lift the left arm to the ceiling, super glue the fingers together, pull the fingers back so the palm of the hand is facing the ceiling, and then pull it back. Staying connected to the breath. Half moon pose, looking down, right fingertips to block or to floor, and fly. Noticing that your arms are already in that expansive wingspan. So all you have to do is pivot the body to face the floor. Once you get there, really feeling the upper body engage, the upper back activate. And then hands come to blocks. We come into that pistol squat. Knee towards the belly button. Try not to let that left heel touch the mat as it comes forward. Squeeze those inner thighs together. And then maybe find a moment of balance. And then rolling onto the back. And you start to swim it out for 10 and 9. You can go faster or slower, up to you. I'm keeping a generic count. We're 5 and 4 and 3. This is really good for bilateral brain stimulation. 2, get your ball, get your momentum. Oh, so close. And then find your flight, hands to the mat. I see these bionic humans that can rock and roll into all these poses, and I'm convinced they have something in their genetics that I don't. And then moving through your vinyasa, up dog, down dog 5. In yogic philosophy, particularly that informed by Patanjali and the Yoga Sutras, we have the yamas and the niyamas, 5 of each. The yamas are typically defined as the observances, the qualities that we try to cultivate in our practice. And the 4th yama is brahmacharya. 2 more breaths and down dog. Brahmacharya is traditionally, historically, known through time to refer to continence or abstinence, the control of sexual energy. Looking forward, step the left foot forward, right knee comes down. Moving through our sequence a little bit more briskly, sweep that left arm back and around. Maybe capture the foot, maybe pull it in. Take a breath here. And yet a lot of modern yoga scholars have begun to translate brahmacharya as skillful management of energy. Release the back shin, tuck the toes, lift the knee, rising up into your crescent. Left hand captures the right wrist, you lean to your left. And so we can apply that to the imagery of the condor who learns, even from toddlerhood. Come into that sweeping circle, finding your goddess legs, right forearm to right thigh, left arm overhead. Take a big inhale in that lateral bend. And then lifting up to your goddess position, feel the forearms pull back, and exhale, hinge forward. Learning how to skillfully use our energy in our practice. So we're not exhausting our resources. Left forearm to thigh, right arm to ceiling, side angle pose as that right leg straightens. And then pulling the fingertips back, getting that inner arm, inner wrist, palm stretch. Breathing, one more breath here. Moving into flight as we transition to half moon, left fingertips to block or floor, flying. Finding places even within the flow to ride the wind, transitioning to warrior 3 with our broad wingspan. And then hands come to blocks, sweeping that right leg in and through. Pistol squat, squeezing inner thighs together. Maybe lifting the hands for a breath. And then rolling back, just 5 swims. 5, 4. This is your last crow coming up. 2. So make it worth it. Rolling along your spine. And then however you get to your position for your crow, planting your palms. This is, again, the last crow because we won't do this on the second side. Last breath in. Vinyasa. 5 breaths in down dog or child's pose. So much of how we use our energy connects to the things that are required of us. How much energy do we need to do the various jobs that we have? And so there's a sort of internal algebra of energy output and moments of rest, of gliding. Last and final side of the sequence, looking forward, stepping right foot forward, left knee down. Sweeping arm up, back and around, finding that back foot. Maybe squeezing it in for a breath. As you release, transitioning to your crescent lunge, lifting that back knee, rising up, and then right hand finds the left wrist. You inhale to get tall. You exhale to boldly lean to the right. You take a breath in, and as you exhale, you sweep around, finding that goddess, left forearm to thigh, right arm overhead. Inhale. Exhale, rising up into your goddess, activating the upper back. Exhale, hinging forward. Inner knees opening wide. Inhale. Side angle, right forearm to right thigh, left leg straightens. And then you pull the fingertips back, let the left arm float back. Looking down, moving into flight, half moon pose. Letting the whole sequence become like one choreographed sequence of flight. Pivoting, warrior 3, arms in that wingspan. Final toe squat, hands to blocks, threading that left leg through and forward. And then final bit on your back. 5. Remember, we're not doing our crow. 4, 3, 2, right knee in, left leg long. So left leg long, right knee in. Take your left hand to your right knee, spinal twist. Right knee across the body. Right arm is out wide. Moving into a floor sequence here. So you may have to roll a little bit off your yoga mat here onto whatever flooring is there, because we're going to keep rolling onto the belly. Your right leg is going to be in like that half frog position, and the arms are going to come into Sphinx pose. So you're facing the back of your mat, right leg is in half frog, arms are in Sphinx. Let the forearms push down, and then activate your elbows to pull them back towards the ribs. Yeah. Looking out in front of you, soften the face. And then there's an option. I turn my hands slightly out, push into my palms, and lift up into almost a seal variation here. And then final option, and I would encourage you to at least try this one. You can lower back onto the elbows if you need to. Bend your left knee, and then flex your foot so that the sole of your left foot is facing up towards the ceiling. And just a little bit, push your left foot up towards the ceiling. Your quadricep is going to talk to you. Okay? Yeah. Take one more breath. And then relax the left foot, but keep the left knee bent. Thread your left arm underneath your right. We're coming into cat pulling its tail. So left arm underneath right. Sweep your right arm around to see if you can find the top of your left foot. And then let your right shoulder melt back and open towards your mat. So you're in cat pulling its tail. Beautiful. And then maintaining a sense of humor in our practice. We're going to do a pose that I have self-named. I don't know if it has an official name. The infinity pose, because in my mind's eye, it looks like an infinity sign. So you're going to keep a hold of the top of the left foot. Draw your right knee in towards your chest. Take your left hand and hold onto the pinky side edge of your right foot. And then straighten either partially or fully your right leg. So you create like an infinity sign with your body. Or it's like a compass pose on your back. And then begin to release that. We are going to flow through a vinyasa. So you can rock and roll forward, crossing the ankles and flowing it out. And whether that went super well or totally not according to plan, again, welcoming in a sense of humor into the practice. To start that sequence on the second side, we'll jump through and return to our backs. So you might widen the hands, get a little bouncy in the knees, and then jump on through and lie on the back. And then we'll begin with the right leg elongated, left knee in, and guide that knee across into your spinal twist. In this particular episode that I was watching, the baby condors failed at flight over and over and over again. Such a reminder that beginning again is an essential component of practice. Keep rolling onto the belly. Left leg stays in that half frog. Forearms come into Sphinx pose. And the forearms are really active as they push down into the mat, almost like you're creating a print with your forearms and palms. And then pull the elbows back towards the ribs to draw the heart forward. Elongate the front of the throat. And take another breath. Option to widen the palms slightly, pushing into the palms, lifting up towards a sort of seal variation. And then wherever you are, I'd encourage you to try this next option by bending that back knee, flexing the right foot, and just a little energetic push of the sole of the right foot up towards the ceiling while still pulling the right heel in. And your quadricep is going to have something to say. And then relax the right foot. Cat pulling its tail, thread the right arm through underneath the left. Sweep the left arm around to find that top of the right foot, and then let the left shoulder roll back and open towards the floor and the mat. And then again, bringing a little bit of lightness and laughter with you, you keep a hold of the top of the right foot. As you bring the left knee in, lift up with your right hand to find that pinky side edge of that left foot, and then you work to extend that leg so it's like a compass pose on your back. Last breath in. No vinyasa here as you gently release, giving yourself a nice big hug. We'll do one little bit of a very gentle bridge pose. This is not meant to be a deep back bend. So bring the feet to the mat about hip distance apart. A little bit wider is fine. If that feels better on your back, you could even turn the feet out slightly. Arms alongside you, palms down, breathing in. As you exhale, pushing down into the feet, rolling up one vertebra at a time, finding a soft bridge. Just coming back to a place of equilibrium in the body. One more breath in here. And then gently rolling down one vertebra at a time. Extending the legs, extending the arms. And I'm going to guide us through in Shavasana today, relatively quick. It'll take about 3 minutes. 5 sense meditation. So if you want to cover the body or dim the lights, you're welcome to do so. And we begin by tapping into the sensory doorway of touch. Becoming aware of all of the parts of our body that are in contact with the floor or the mat. And allowing their full weighted quality to just be supported. Perhaps even noticing the material of our clothing lying against our skin. If it's smooth or soft, heavy or scratchy, tight or loose. Just pausing to appreciate that we have access to the sense of touch. And directing our attention to the sense of sight. Knowing that our experience of sight isn't only external to the world, but is also internal. And so even as the eyes are closed, taking in our inner landscape, and allowing the organ of the eyes to rest heavily in their sockets. Relaxing eyes, eyelids, and eyebrows, and expressing gratitude for our access to the sense of sight. Shifting the awareness to our sense of hearing, and allowing any sounds in our environment to come and go without clinging to them or attaching any sort of story to them. Pausing to appreciate our access to the sensory doorway of hearing. Shifting our awareness to the sense of smell and the organ of the nose. Noticing the breath as it comes in and out through the nostrils, perhaps slightly cooler on the inhale and warmer on the exhale. Pausing to intentionally express gratitude for our access to the sense of smell. And finally, directing our attention to the sense of taste and the doorway of the mouth and the tongue. Allowing the tongue to rest heavily inside of the mouth, along the soft palate. Allowing there to be a bit of space between the top and bottom rows of teeth. Expressing gratitude for our access to the sense of taste. Resting in 30 seconds of silence as a sensory being, grateful for the multitude of doorways that allow us to experience the world. Without moving your body, allow the next few breaths to be deeper, more conscious. And from that space of deep breathing, welcoming in subtle movement into the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. Maybe a long stretch, the arms overhead. And then in your own way and in your own time, making your way back up to a comfortable seat to close the practice. We close the practice by either bringing the hands onto the body as a gesture of gratitude, or if you prefer, bringing the hands together in a soft prayer position. Dropping the chin slightly as we express gratitude for nature itself, which is such a teacher, inspired today's theme and practice. The ways in which we are all interconnected and learn from one another. May the entire universe be filled with peace, joy, love, and light. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Victory to our practices.